Good morning, Mike and Sarah. As you said, we are live at the Gerald R. Ford Presidential Museum in Grand Rapids talking about the Centennial celebration. Very pleased to welcome Marty Allen, a man well known around West Michigan, all around Grand Rapids, Chairman Emeritus of the Ford Foundation. Before we get to the Centennial, Mr. Ford loved Grand Rapids. He would have loved this Grand Rapids morning, wouldn't he?
He would have loved it. The last time he was here was for his 90th birthday, and it was almost the same weather, so he's taken pretty good care of us, I think.
And a lot of people don't know, but his office was right up over our shoulders there, so he got a look at the skyline changing up from Grand Rapids over the years.
Which he really enjoyed. He'd sit in a chair up there, and he'd tell me which factory used to be here, where the trolley car stopped, and he was very impressed to watch the city regrow.
Well, we've been talking all morning long about the celebration at the airport, the birthday party today, and then on Saturday, John Meacham will speak. Are you excited about that one? He's a very well-known lecturer, historian. What do you think he's going to talk about in the legacy portion?
I don't know, but I'm sure it's going to have a lot to do with the integrity of the man, his honesty, and the kind of politician that we probably should have more of in Washington right now.
Do you remember more President Ford, the politician, or the man, since you knew him for such a long time?
I think I really knew him as the politician, and then interesting enough, as I got to know him more as the man afterwards, we just became close friends, and that's what I remember about him the greatest.
And how do you think personally his legacy has changed? Because a president's legacy really isn't known until they're out of office for several years. Well, it's been decades now.
Well, I really think that what's happening now is that people understand the legacy of the man and what he did in such a short period of time to change the country, and now all of those thoughts are kind of resurfacing now, and history taking its place and remembering him for that.
And there's only about 13 presidential museums or libraries. A lot of people drive past this every day and they don't know about a place like this, especially the younger generation. They could really learn a lot, because if they don't learn about it now, they might not ever take the time to look it up on the internet, don't you think?
That was his mission too. When he dedicated this building, he said, I don't want it to be a monument myself. I want it to be a living history experience for the young people to be able to come in. And that's what we worked very hard to make that happen.
There will be a wreath laying on Saturday, or Sunday rather, at 1 o'clock, and then everything will move inside as we get a look at the model of the USS Gerald Ford. You have seen the actual ship a couple of times. How impressive, how big is it?
I don't know how you define it by dimension. It is huge. The dry dock that it's in, they have the biggest crane in the world doing lifting there. It was magnificent even in its raw stage. And come November, they'll christen it, and come 2015, they'll put it to sea. He was so pleased with that, because he was alive, and on Thanksgiving Day, before he passed away, the Secretary of Defense Rumsfeld came and gave him a small model and his military hat to go with it. So he was extremely pleased.
Marty Allen, thank you for your time, and best of luck. Enjoy the weekend. It's going to be a very special time, the Centennial celebration. Susan Ford Bales will also be here taking part in that celebration. She is what's known as the sponsor of that USS Gerald Ford aircraft carrier. We will have more coming up in our 8 o'clock hour, but for now, we're live in Grand Rapids. Tim Doty, Fox 17 News. Good morning, Mike and Sarah. Everything kicks off today with a celebration, a birthday party at the Ford International Airport. Then everything shifts here to the Gerald R. Ford Presidential Museum. Deputy Director Jim Kratsis joins me now. Welcome.
Thank you.
We've seen a lot of not so happy moments here at the museum. We saw President Ford, Mrs. Ford here. But this is kind of a fun weekend, correct?
Well, this is fun. This is a celebration of two lives very well lived, especially President Ford being his 100th anniversary or 100th birthday. So we're very excited to commemorate, this significant event.
And one of the big things on Sunday after the wreath laying, which we'll talk about a little later on in the show, is the unveiling of the model of the USS Gerald Ford. We can't see it, but we can sort of see it here.
We can sort of see it, yes.
A whimsical touch here that there's a white sheet with a question mark. You don't often see that at a federal type building, but tell us about the model, what you can tell us at this point.
Sure. The model is of the USS Gerald R. Ford. It's a CVN 78. It's the very first of a new class of aircraft carrier. So before that, every aircraft carrier was the Nimitz class. Now we have the Ford class. So every aircraft carrier after this will be known as the Ford class of aircraft carrier. So it's a very significant piece.
Will the model stay in the lobby once it's unveiled, or will it go somewhere else here in the museum?
We're going to have it here in the lobby for a period of time. It is destined to go into the new permanent exhibits when we do those in the next few years.
And tell us about the Growing Up Grand is still underway, and you just see the images around of Gerald R. Ford as a high schooler, as a college football player, and he looks exactly the same. He's such a striking and memorable figure.
He is very athletic and very good looking. He was a great student. But Growing Up Grand tells the story of President Ford from his birth all the way up through his college years, and it really is the formative years. The influences of both his stepfather and his mother, as well as the influences of Grand Rapids, the community.
And when you gave me a tour here just about a year ago, until then I hadn't realized that the museum is a presidential museum, but it's not all about the president. It's about America at the time Gerald R. Ford was president. I don't think a lot of people would remember that. Would you agree?
I agree. Well, you know, presidential museums, they're chapters in American history. We define what happened in our lives during a presidency. You know, some people equate it to a music period or something like that, but it really is of a president. And you know, Gerald Ford was the right man for the right time, and that was Watergate and the problems that we had.
All right, Jim, thanks for that. If you want to see some video of that tour, go to fox17online.com and you can see the tour that Jim gave me last year. We will have more on this weekend's Centennial celebration coming up in just a little bit on Fox 17 Morning News. Live in Grand Rapids, Tim Doty, Fox 17 News.